Christina, one of the main reasons we use Excel is to store data and to perform calculations on that data. So what I'd like to do is take you back and talk about formulas, talk about functions, and even go back to some basics that might bring back some memory of your grade school years. Okay? So first of all, what we want to think about is how Excel performs a calculation. If you put a formula in a cell, how does it determine what to do first, what to do second? And so I have just popped up here in Word a possible formula. And quickly, let's just take a look. Of course, we know the plus sign is for adding, the asterisk here.
I got to say that's quite a formula you got going on there.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I tried to put something really complicated in here. The asterisk is for multiplication. We do the slash for division. Of course, addition. Do you know what the caret symbol is?
Exponent.
Exponentiation. So that's 2 cubed. Of course, the minus is subtract. There's our division, plus. And then also we have our percentage way over here in a multiplication situation. How do you think Excel calculates this? What does it do first?
Well, I am taken back to 6th grade pre-algebra, and what's coming to mind is please excuse my dear Aunt Sally.
Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Do you know, I always count on students to remember that because I can't remember the acronym. I just know what goes first, second, and third. But please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Please stands for?
Parentheses?
You know, when we were in school and they taught us, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, it was parentheses. But there is something in this formula. One, we don't have parentheses. Do you notice that?
Yes, I do.
There is something in this formula that starts with a P that actually comes first in this particular formula. What would that be?
Percentage.
Percentage. So that 8% would be the first part.
Okay.
After that, excuse. What's next? Please excuse.
The exponent.
Right.
2 to the 3rd power.
Then what comes next?
Let's see. Please excuse so either multiplication or division.
Multiplication and division carry the same weight. So basically you move from the left to the right. So the first thing we'll see is 6 times 3. We would multiply that first before we would divide by 5.
Okay.
So that would be first. And then moving across, then we've got the multiplication, the division, then what's next?
Multiplication, division, and then Aunt Sally is addition and subtraction.
Right. But I was saying basically based on multiplication and division, we still have another division and another multiplication moving left to right. We have 4 divided by 2, and then 3 times that 8%, right?
Okay, yep.
All right, so the next thing would be your addition and your subtraction. So that's basically what's left in the formula, isn't it? So we would add 5 to whatever we got when we multiplied times 3 and then divided by 5. We would add that to our 2 cubed. We would subtract that 4 divided by 2 and then add that last part there.
Okay.
So you have your percentage, your multiplication, division, your addition and subtraction, moving left to right, and the exponentiation after the percentage. Now, you said earlier parentheses, and that is true. If I wanted to add 5 and 6 before I multiplied times 3, I can put parentheses in here. In fact, why don't you do that? Put a parenthesis before the 5 and a parenthesis after the 6. And the parentheses come first over everything. So if you want to change the order of calculation, then you put parentheses around what you want it to do. So if I want a mathematical addition before a multiplication, or maybe I want 5 plus 2, then cube it. Then I put parentheses around those, and it controls what's done first.
Okay.
Okay? So now that we've done that, let's move over and let's look at the first Excel file. Okay, you might remember this file from early on when we were first exploring how to input data in a cell, and we got in here later and did some formatting and so forth. But let's just look at your basic formula.
Okay.
We have sales in row 3, we have expenses in row 4. So if we wanted a profit in row 5, mathematically, what do we need to do?
Sales minus expenses, right?
Right. So what would your formula be there in cell B5?
I would take B3 minus B4.
B3 minus B4, right. So why don't you type that formula in? Of course, we know formulas start with
An equal sign.
an equal sign. That tells Excel this is a formula. All right, so we have equals B3 minus B4. And why don't you just go up and click on the check mark or hit enter, whatever your favorite way of accepting that.
Okay.
And there's our profit. Wow, we got a good profit there.
I
didn't
know,
we?
I'm liking that.
Yeah, let's go on and put profit in that first cell there. Now, do you remember what happens? Click back on B5. Do you remember what happens if we grab that fill series handle and drag across?
It will copy that formula.
Right. Remember, we use that fill series handle in a lot of different ways, and one of them is to copy a formula. So just click and drag across to C5, D5, and E5.
Okay.
There you go. Now,
That's easy.
I want you to click, notice, first of all, we're still on cell B5, and our formula is, if we look in the formula bar, B3 minus B4. So if you click on cell C5, notice what the formula is there.
C3 minus C4.
Right. Now we're in column C. Excel's smart enough to figure that out.
Excel is so smart.
It is super smart.
is awesome.
Now if you click on D5, what do you think it's going to be as far as formula?
I would hope it's D3 minus D4. Yeah.
Exactly. And then of course at E it's going to be E3 minus E4. We are copying that formula over so it recognizes the column is changed and the formula changes based on where we've moved it to, relative to where it's going to.
Okay.
If we copy a formula down the column, then we're not changing columns, are we?
No.
What are we changing?
Rows.
So then the row reference changes.
Okay.
Okay? That's great most of the time. In fact, if you click on cell E3, there's a sum formula, B3 to D3. What do you think it is in cell E4?
B4 to D4.
Exactly.
There we go.
And if we had copied that one down into E5, it would say, B5 to D5. But instead, we copied the formula from cell B5 across.
Sure.
Okay. That's what we call relative reference. And whenever you copy formulas, it does relative reference unless you tell it to do something different.
Okay.
So let's go and pull up in Excel. I have a few files open down here. Pull up that one on the far left, Sales Commission. This is a worksheet we've dealt with several times. It has the sales, the percentage, and the amount of commission each person is earning. And notice I have in column H a bonus.
Ah.
Sometimes in sales, people get a bonus. And sometimes it's based on what you're making. Sometimes it's just across the board. Everybody gets the same bonus. So let's say
I'd like a bonus.
Yeah, I would too. We'd like a bonus. Anyway, let's assume the bonus is $200.
Okay.
So let's go there and cell H2 and type 200.
There we go.
Now click back on our commission formula.
Okay.
It's D2 times E2.
All right.
We just need to add the bonus to it. Now, remembering what we've talked about order of preference, what might you choose to do here?
Just add H2.
Right, because the multiplication is going to occur
Right.
before an addition. So we could just come to the end of that formula, and I see you've clicked in the formula bar, which is where we edit formulas. And let's just type in plus H2.
How about that?
That
Oh, it
works.
highlighted it.
And it highlighted it, exactly. Now, let's just accept that formula. If we were to copy that formula down the column, what would happen to it in cell F3?
I would hope that it would add 200 to each one of those.
Will it?
I don't know.
Well, let's copy the formula down and let's see what happens here.
Okay.
They didn't change, did they?
They sure didn't.
Let's click on the formula in cell F3.
F3.
It's not looking at cell H2 anymore, is it?
No, it's looking at H3, and we do not have a thing in there.
No. Now, some people think, okay, the workaround would be,
Just put $200 in there.
yeah, just all the way down. Well, let's say I have 100 employees. Do I want to sit there and go 200, 200, 200? Or even copying it all the way down? That's a pain.
Right. I totally agree.
We just need our formula to always look at cell H2.
Okay.
So when we copy the formula, it only looks at cell H2. It doesn't change that reference.
So how do we tell it that?
Well, it's really very simple. Let's go back up to cell F2 where we first put it in. Put your mouse up there in the formula bar where we typed in H2, and then press your F4 key. What happened?
It put money in there.
It put dollar signs, didn't it?
Can you do that to my pocketbook?
I wish. I could handle that too. Notice we have $H, $2. Now I'm just going to toggle through F4 for a moment here. Notice now the dollar sign's just next to the 2. Now it's just next to the H.
Okay.
We're back to our original.
Okay.
So it toggles through these 4 options. This is relative reference, no dollar signs at all.
Okay.
So if I copy this formula, the H2 is going to shift based on where I've copied it to.
Right, and then we'll end up copying it down like we saw before, and there's nothing in there.
H3, H4, H5.
Right.
Now, if I do it like this, any part of the cell reference that has a dollar sign next to it does not change if I copy the formula.
Ah, so it sticks.
It sticks, exactly.
I like
so
it.
they both stick. Now I'm going to hit F4 again. What sticks if I copy the formula here?
Just the row, because the row name is 2.
Right. And on this one?
Just the column, because the column name is H.
Right. So wherever the dollar sign is. Which one do we need?
We need both. We need H2 and only H2.
Okay. So I've toggled back where we have $H, $2.
Okay.
Now you can type that in, but it's also easy just to go F4.
No, yeah, I like
and pop
F4.
it up
That's
there.
cool.
Let's accept that formula
Okay.
and copy that formula down the column.
Oh,
And
they
it
all
works.
got
So go
an
click
extra
on
$200.
cell F3. Notice it's H2. And if you were to go down each one of those, it shows the H2.
Oh, that works perfect for what we need to use this for.
So what do you need to use that for? How would you use that?
Well, basically, what we've done is if we have one cell that we are including in our formula, rather than using relative reference, we would need to make that stick and add our dollar signs in there so that we can make sure that it is calculating with just that cell reference.
Right. So you can use it for a bonus. You can use it for maybe everything's getting a price bump. And it's across, maybe it's a percentage, maybe it's a flat amount. But there's all sorts of applications here where you can use that. One cell has the information, we use absolute reference.
Yeah, I could use that on our tax rate too. That would be great.
So we've looked at order of preference as far as in a formula. We've looked at typing in a formula, copying it in relative reference, and then we saw absolute reference.
All right.